Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 189. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. If you are new here, my name is Tess. I am the host, founder of Wander Wealthy, and business coach for all of the money coaches, financial coaches, wealth coaches of the world. If you talk about money, if you like to help other people with their money, whether it's their actual ins and outs of managing their finances, or you like to help them with money mindset, either way, if it has to do with money, then this is the place for you. On this podcast, we talk all things coaching, helping you with not only delivering a really great life-changing experience for your clients, but also helping you with the ins and outs of building your business. And this week's episode is going to be specific around that. I'm going to be sharing with you your coaching toolkit. Basically, all the things that you can use, that you can have on hand to really create a strong foundation for your coaching business. And it'll help you not only with managing the business things, but also deliver your coaching. And these are personally the 7 online tools that I cannot live without in my coaching business. Perk is that they are all free, or they have a free version. So you can do this on very little money. And that is really kind of my stance when it comes to building a business, is that it doesn't need to cost that much. Sure, you can choose to invest in things to make your life a little bit easier, like a coach, or maybe there's some sort of online tool that you want to be paying for, but it really doesn't cost that much to run a thriving, booked out online coaching business, specifically when it comes to money coaching. And I just want to let you in on the secret, because that's the truth. You do not need all of these tools, all of these fancy schmancy things that everyone else is telling you need to sign up for. There's either a cheap way or an affordable way around it, or it's entirely unnecessary. So I think when I go through the 7 online tools that I can't live without, you will see that my business and the way that I run it is very simple, and it should be that way, right? Like, business isn't necessarily easy, but it doesn't need to be overcomplicated or hard. So we're going to break it all down for you. But before I dive into my 7 magical online tools that I just can't live without, I do want to introduce this week's sponsor of this episode. And that is my 12-week business building program for money coaches, financial coaches, and wealth coaches, the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. If you're new here, you may not have heard about it, so let me share a little bit of the details with you. This program is meant to help you build and craft your life-changing coaching program for your money coaching clients and identify who specifically your ideal client is, so that you know how to find them, how to attract them, and how to sell them, and how to delight them when you ultimately do deliver your coaching to them. Plus, how to build a sustainable and a scalable money coaching business so you don't have to worry what it looks like when you're at capacity and you don't know how you're going to take your business from where it is at right now, maybe a little bit stagnant, to the next level. So this program is really perfect for anyone in their money coaching, financial coaching, business building journey. Whether you have just been starting to think about potentially becoming a money coach, or you've been doing the darn thing for a few months, maybe even a few years, and you're hitting a breaking point. You're frustrated with the results, or you know that there's more there for you and you're just not sure how to break through. So if you're interested, the next round is going to be opening up for enrollment at the end of this year, and you'll get an opportunity to jump on a strategy session with me. We can talk all about where you're at and see if the Wealthy Coach Blueprint really is the right step for you. And so go ahead and check out the blueprint by going to wanderwealthy.com/apply. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of that page, you can jump on the waitlist. And that way you will be the first to know when enrollment opens. You can get a spot for a strategy session, and we can get you inside as soon as possible. The next round will kick off early January. And what better way to start 2021 off right than really building your business from the ground up in a really powerful, strong foundational way. So wanderwealthy.com/apply. All right, on to this week's episode. Now we're going to dive into my 7 online tools that I cannot live without when it comes to running my money coaching business. And of course, I use it now in my business coaching business, but don't be fooled. I still offer money coaching and I still use these tools actually in both, and they work. And probably they'd work for any type of coaching business that you might have. So the first tool that I cannot live without is Google Drive. Now, Google, obviously I use Gmail for email, and I use Google Calendar for my calendar kind of booking and just basically planning out my weeks and my months and my years. But Google Drive is really at the core of my coaching part of my business. And that is because I actually use Google Drive instead of using my computer hard drive when I am doing client work. So to give you a little sneak peek behind the scenes when it comes to my money coaching business, with all of my clients, I have a financial dashboard, and that dashboard is actually on something that corresponds with Google Drive, which is Google Sheets. It's basically Google's version of Excel, and they actually work very, very similarly. But Google Sheets is where I will put together my financial dashboard for my clients. And the best part is that with Google Drive and using Google Sheets inside of Google Drive, my clients can have access to this dashboard, as can I. And if either one of us are making updates to it, it updates in real time. So we're not spending any time or wasting any time sending new versions of Excel spreadsheets back and forth, because we just have this one sheet. Both of us can be logged into it. Both of us can be making changes to it. And that's kind of our home base, so to speak. So the Google Sheet, the financial dashboard, is located within each client's respective folders. So they each get their own Google Sheet, and then it's located in this folder, where within this folder, both, again, myself and my clients can have access to it. And I also use those folders for my clients to upload their, any sort of files that we might need to take a peek into. And it just works so well for both of us to be on the same page. So each of my clients actually have their own individual client folders, and only they have access to that one folder, while I have access to all of those folders, obviously, because I'm the coach. And then I can actually create a template of my financial dashboard and then just create copies of it to drag and drop into each of the client's folders so that they can update it, see what's going on, and it just works so swimmingly. The other thing is that I can also create Google Docs, which is basically Google's version of Microsoft Word. And that works really well for me to create things like worksheets for my clients to fill out, and other things that you can drag and drop into these folders so that your clients can have access are things like maybe video recordings that you create to help educate your client, or maybe you record your client calls and then you want to give them access to that. That may require you to buy a little bit more storage on Google Drive platform, but it's not that expensive and well worth it if you do run your business in that way. So I do actually pay $20 per year, which is a drop in the bucket, for me to get a ton of extra storage that then I can have full video recordings of my client calls and share those directly with my clients, plus all the other documents that we have inside of the Google Drive. So Google Drive is kind of like it's like a client file, but it's online, and it's great because it's in the cloud and both of us can access it. And it's been, safe and secure for me. Of course, we don't put any personally identifiable information up, on the internet, sharing it between the two of us. But as long as we just have the numbers, everything makes sense for us. So Google Drive is free, as is having a Gmail address and a Google Calendar. Like, it's all in one. It's all your Google account, and that is free. Now, you can do something for business specifically, which is called G Suite. So technically, maybe I should be on G Suite, but honestly, at this point, I've been doing my business on my personal Gmail account that it just feels like a lot of effort to switch over, and I have never had any problems there. And so for the sake of, how I use it and what I'm doing, it is free other than paying $20 a year. And that's a personal choice for me because I choose to upload videos into the Google Drive, which obviously take up more space. So I pay $20 a year to get some extra storage, which is, again, a small drop in the bucket for what I'm getting out of the platform. The second online tool that I use is called Asana. Now, Asana is a task management platform. Basically, you can create a lot of different to-do lists, and Asana is really versatile, meaning you can create projects and then within the projects have these kind of ongoing to-do lists, but you can also put it into a calendar format, or you can put it into like a sticky note kind of format. There's a lot of different ways that you can use Asana. And the way that I actually use it is specifically for a client relationship manager system. Now, what this means is it just helps me kind of keep track of each of my clients and where they're at in the coaching process with me. So if I'm offering a client a 6-session program, I can see, is this my client's 3rd session or their 5th session? And then with each task, which represents a session for my clients, I can actually make notes in there. I can add descriptions, I can upload documents. And so each client basically has their own profile. And then within that profile, I have subtasks, which are their sessions. And within the subtasks, I can have notes and documents and all that good stuff. And that's really great for me because it just helps me, stay up to date with where each of my clients are in the process. I can review notes before a session. I can, prepare super easily and stay up to date. And the other thing that I love to use Asana for is also just kind of reminding me of some things that I always do within my coaching work. So, maybe it's I need to check up on a client. And so I add a task under the client profile to then remind me to do something like that, like send a check-in email. Or maybe I need to ask for a testimonial. And I always do that when we have 1 to 2 calls remaining in our current coaching agreement. And so I can set that all up, set due dates, and then Asana, depending on, again, how you use it, but I will just have a calendar open, and then each of my client calls will show on my calendar. If there's a task related to following up with a client or sending a testimonial request, that will show up on my calendar, and it just makes managing it so much easier. So this is something that I actually include a full template for my clients within the Wealthy Coach Blueprint to be able to use in Asana and get all of their clients set up in Asana to make managing their business so much easier. And it's just something that it not necessarily is directly related to like my client's experience, other than when I can stay organized and I can stay up to date with my client and in their client profile, then that does make their experience so much better. But it also just helps me stay organized and sane on the back end of my business and managing all the clients that I have. So Asana is something that I use in correlation with actually Google Calendar, which kind of comes off of my first online tool. But I like to have, obviously, my coaching calls booked in my Google Calendar so that, I have a place that gets blocked off and clients can see when I'm busy and when I'm free. But then I also have Asana to kind of act as a backup to-do list. So yes, my calls will show up in my Asana calendar, but there's not necessarily like reminders getting pinged or anything. It's really just to see, make sure I'm staying on top of where my clients are in their coaching process. The other thing that I use just kind of along the lines of this, and this isn't free, but it's, I'm sure there are free versions, but I use a day planner to, of course, replicate essentially what's in Asana, what's on my Google Calendar into kind of like a pen and paper physical day planner that sits on my desk. And this is a personal choice, I think. I really like the pen and paper and like checking things off a list, and then also being able to check things off digitally. And it just also helps me if I'm wanting to be removed from the digital aspect of my business for certain things. Like maybe there's things that I need to do where I don't have to have Asana or Google Calendar open or even be on my computer, but I can still check things off. So I use a planner called the Daily Page. It is created by a wonderful person, Danny Brufalt. She lives in Denmark and is from nearby my hometown, in Minnesota and Iowa. We actually live across the border from each other, or come from across the border from each other. And she runs an Etsy shop called Time is Honey, and the Daily Page is one of her best creations. So if you're looking for a new day planner, go check it out. She is also super responsible in terms of, every planner you buy, you plant a tree, and she just makes really good quality stuff as well. So that obviously I pay for, but it's just been such a wonderful addition to my life because it's so much more than just like tracking your tasks for work. There's also wellness pieces in it as well. The third thing, so I'm sorry, that's like 3 in 1. I understand that, but Asana, it has a free version. There's also a paid version. I've never needed to upgrade to the paid version at this point in time. Maybe I will in the future, but for now it's not necessary for me. So Asana is free, Google Calendar is free, and the Daily Page I do pay for, but I'm sure there's other day planners that are free and available that maybe you can even print off online if you want to. Or maybe you just want to stick to digital planning, and that's cool too. The third tool that I cannot live without is Calendly. So Calendly is a scheduling software, and basically you can kind of create an event. So let's say that you want to set up discovery calls and you want to invite people to sign up for discovery calls with you, but you want to make sure that, you're not getting double booked or anything. And sometimes when you're scheduling things and you're trying to do it manually and maybe you're scheduling across time zones, that can just get really messy. So Calendly is a really great tool because it can essentially sync to your online calendar. So obviously for me, it syncs to Google Calendar so that it can see when am I busy and when am I available. The other really great thing is within Calendly, I can actually set up when I do want to take calls and when I don't. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that obviously I live in Europe, and so I can't really take calls during the afternoon for people who live in the US because I'm basically sleeping, or I just don't want to work because I'm eating dinner and going to bed. So I have, only a set amount of time that I can really take coaching calls. The other thing though is that I don't take calls until a certain time in the day, meaning I use and reserve my morning for more creative work. And granted, it works really well for me because most of my clients are US based, so they're not even awake in my morning, which is fine. But if I do have clients, I do have some clients who are in the UK. And if I do have clients who like to wake up super ridiculously early, they still wouldn't be able to book with me until after a certain time because that is my time for creation and, thinking and doing things like creating this podcast. So I actually space that out, or I block that out in Calendly, and I just set days too. Also, you can block off days. I set specific time frames and days when I am available for coaching calls, for sales calls, for market research calls. If someone wants to, I don't really let people pick my brain, but if I see a reason for someone and I to just connect, I also have a Calendly event for that. Now, the free version of Calendly, because there is one, only allows you to have one event. And so for a long time, I actually used 2 different email addresses and created 2 different Calendly accounts so that I could have 2 free events, which is a little extreme, but it worked for me for a long time until I got to a point where I saw a need to use some of the advanced features in Calendly, like being able to sync Zoom, which I'm going to get to in a little bit, and be able to do some other things like have multiple events and just have it all in one platform. So I decided I'd bite the bullet, and I ended up paying $96 a year for the Calendly premium account. But like I said, there is a free option, and especially when you're new and kind of just getting started, it is perfectly doable to use that free option. So Calendly is wonderful for any scheduling need because I can just send the person my Calendly link, and when they click on it, it will open up a calendar, and then they can pick the day that I have call slots available. So I don't take calls on Friday as an example. So it would not show availability on Friday. So they can pick, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then once they pick the day, then it'll show the time slots that I have available. And then it all gets scheduled from there. It'll pop up on my Google Calendar. It will send them an email and then also a calendar invite and all of the details they need to know to get on the call. And it's just everything is done. So Calendly has been a lifesaver for me in my coaching business. The fourth tool that I use, and I kind of apologize because this isn't exactly free, but it's definitely necessary. And I couldn't live without it. And I don't know many business owners who can't. This is also two tools kind of in one because you can pick either or do both. It's Stripe and or PayPal. So obviously when you start your coaching business, you need a way to collect payments. And I hate to say it, but Venmo isn't exactly the best option because you're not really acting like a business if you're just collecting Venmo payments. And the kind of sad thing or the unfortunate thing is when you collect payments through Stripe and or PayPal, either way, you have to pay a processing fee. So let's say I have the Online Coaches Pricing Workbook as an example. It is $27. When someone buys it, they're going to buy it and they can buy it through either Stripe or PayPal. The platform that I use on the back end to deliver that actually offers either option. So when they buy it, whether it's through Stripe or PayPal, they have the same fees across the board. So I'm always going to get like $25 and some cents because both Stripe and PayPal will take like a set fixed 10 or 30 cents. I don't even know what it is. It's like 30 cents plus a percentage, which might be like 2.5% of the purchase price. And yeah, it's not fun, but the way that I think of it is, hey, that's just the cost of doing business. So my revenue is $27. The cost of being able to process payments for like credit and debit cards like that, or through a PayPal account, obviously, if your client has one, is going to be that 2.5% plus 30 cents or whatever it ends up being. I wish I knew off the top of my head, but honestly, I just don't even worry about it anymore. And I know that's hard to get to because for a long time I would be like, if I had like a $1,000 payment come in, I would see like a couple $100 be taken off and it would, it's not so much fun, but eventually you just get in the habit of knowing like this is the cost of doing business. So you can just set up a Stripe account and set up a PayPal account. You probably already have a personal PayPal account. And so you can just set up a business PayPal account. And then actually within Stripe and PayPal both, you can send invoices. So if a client is like, yep, I'm ready to sign up, let's work together, send me an invoice or send me the bill or how do I pay you? You can say, okay, let's stick on the phone. Let me get your email. I'm going to send you this invoice over email. Once you get it, go ahead and open it up. And then you can pay with credit card or a debit card, or if it's through PayPal, then obviously they could maybe pay with their PayPal account if they have money in their PayPal account. So those are the tools for collecting payments, and you need some way to collect a payment. So that's usually the easiest for collecting payments online. And the fee is just like a necessary evil, unfortunately. The fifth tool that I use in my money coaching business that I cannot live without is Zoom. Zoom is a platform. I feel like because of COVID and the pandemic, like I no longer need to explain what Zoom is because I think the whole world knows. But if you don't know, Zoom is a platform that you can use to conduct video calls. You can also just conduct like regular old calls. Basically, you have a Zoom account and then you can create an event and then it'll give you all these details. So you can either send someone a link and then they can log in through the Zoom app, either on their computer or on their phone, or you can send someone you can also provide the phone number and the call-in password or whatever, and they can actually just call in from their phone. So I always suggest my clients to use Zoom, especially with like market research calls and sales calls, because you really want to be able to record these calls. And I know it can be tempting to be like, oh, I'll just do like Facebook call Messenger or video chat or whatever, or I'll just call them up on the phone. But when you do that, then it can, then you're not going to be able to record that call. Now, it can be maybe easier and you have to weigh the pros and the cons of which one you're going to do. But Zoom is ultimately great when it comes to delivering on your coaching because of so many things. But my favorite thing is it allows me to share my screen super easily, as well as record the call. So while I'm sharing the screen, that really helps my client because I can show them what I'm talking about when we're going through their numbers. And then recording the call allows me to then offer my client that call recording so they can go back and review, especially, when they get to a couple days later or a week later and they're like, wait, what was that thing that she told me about the budget? How do I do this again? They can just go back and review the call. So those are both really useful features in Zoom. And I used to use Skype because, again, Zoom has a free version first and foremost. So they have a free version. There are some limitations, but they have a free version. However, I was reluctant to switch over because it was just a new platform that I had to figure out. And I was also, not sure about how the payment really worked. And so I just thought you had to pay for it. So I used Skype for a long time, but Skype has a lot of, smaller issues. Like people have to have a Skype account. They have to remember their ID, and it's not, it just wasn't as easy. And you can screen share, but you can't really record, at least. Maybe they've updated some things and maybe it's better now, but it's just not the most ideal in my opinion. So Zoom has just been something that's made my life a lot easier, and I'm so glad that I kind of made the leap. And I also pay for Zoom because there were some things that I just wanted to have access to for the higher level plan. So I pay for just the first payment tier plan, I believe. I think it's $149 a year, but for whatever reason, the last 2 years, first I paid $75, which I think was half price. I found some coupon code online. And then this past year I paid $85, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know, because I thought it was only for 1 year that I would get half price, but I don't know what's going on, you guys. I just found a coupon code and it worked. So definitely Google and look into some options for getting coupon codes with any of these platforms, but also and especially with Zoom if you're going to use it. The sixth tool that I use is actually an app, and it's probably an app most of you are familiar with. It is WhatsApp. So I love using WhatsApp for the delivery of my coaching because it allows me to provide super easy daily support to my clients. Now, there's specific reasons why I love WhatsApp in particular, and it is because they have a web platform version of the app. So yes, WhatsApp can be on your phone, but you can also have a web version of the app. So you can open a tab on your internet browser and just be able to type to your clients when they're asking you questions straight onto your computer. The other thing is they allow you to do voice memos. And I think, there's lots of apps that allow this, but WhatsApp has really mastered it. So they allow you to do voice memos. You can also do that from your computer, which is awesome. You just push the little memo button and then you stop it when you're done talking. And that just sends basically a voice message to your clients, and they can do the same back to you then. And then you can also send videos. So sometimes I have clients who are really stuck on something just very specific and small. And the easiest thing for me to do is just literally record with my phone how I did that thing and show them the step by step. And it can take 2 minutes, and then I just send it via WhatsApp. And it's it's kind of like sending an Instagram story to a friend, except it's your client, and you can have this one platform where you offer that support. The other reason, or a couple other reasons why I personally love WhatsApp, is because, those are all great. The web version also allows you to drag and drop and upload files, which you can also do on the app. But for me, when I'm having my clients turn in homework and then I'm providing them with feedback, we can kind of pass files back and forth if we're not using Google Drive in that scenario, which sometimes we don't if we're, doing files or doing documents and, fill this out or whatever. And then the other reason I love it is because it separates my client delivery from my marketing. So I know a lot of people really love to use Facebook and just Facebook Messenger, or they'll use Instagram Messenger. But what's really important for me is that I can give priority access to my clients. And so I have kind of made WhatsApp that VIP platform. So if you have my WhatsApp, you're like a VIP. And then if we're kind of like in marketing mode or sales mode, that's happening more on my social media platforms because that's where I'm doing marketing and sales. Of course, I sometimes will like obviously send my clients little love notes and like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. If they make a post that I love or when they're putting stuff up on stories, like obviously I'm also interacting with them there. But if it's specific questions, we always move it over to WhatsApp because it just gives us more accessibility to each other. So I also recommend if you're offering some sort of daily support feature like this in your business, you can obviously use Facebook. You could also just use email if that's, your jam and you just want to keep things on email. A lot of people will use Slack, which honestly, I don't know if there's a free version of Slack, but it's kind of like a messaging platform that a lot of companies use. It's not my all-time favorite, so that's why I've used WhatsApp. But I do recommend that you use something different than how you like to communicate with like friends and family, because you do want to keep like work separate from life. And so I will admit, I do use WhatsApp to communicate with friends and family because I live in Europe, and WhatsApp is like text messaging in Europe. They don't really text because it's expensive here, but it's been really great for me to be able to connect with my clients in a way that's super special. And honestly, if I was in the States, like I never used to use WhatsApp in the States. And so it would probably just be a desktop platform for me. And I wouldn't even have it on my phone. But those are my 2 cents on providing support, is just to keep it separate, but also find an app that you really love and that works really well for you. And that's what works for me. The 7th and final online tool that has been instrumental in my business is it's actually a Google Chrome, which is the web browser, a Google Chrome plugin, and it is called Loom. It is a video creation thingy. And it's a plugin. You can, if you're on a web page and you want to screen record what you're doing, which is really helpful in coaching. If a client is stuck on something, you can say, okay, let me create a quick tutorial to show you how to do that. So then using Loom, you can just like click the plugin, decide if you want to show your face in the screen or not, connect it with your audio, figure out, which tab you're going to share, if you're going to share the whole screen, and then just hit go. And then it will start recording. It'll record your voice over what you're doing on screen. Again, if you're doing your face in the image, I guess, it will pop that up in the corner, and it just like really helps you create a cohesive and super supportive deliverable for your clients. So I love using Loom for even just like the curriculum of my programs, but also for supplementary trainings that I'm like, okay, I didn't cover that in my program, but that's a really good question. It's not going to apply to everyone, but let me create you a quick tutorial. And then when you are done recording, it immediately gets you a link to send to your client. And then they're just going to go to the link and it'll pop up, your Loom video and show them the video. But it also is housed then in your Loom account. So then you can always go grab that link and share it with other clients in the future. So you don't have to continuously remake this supplementary training. It's going to be there for you whenever you need it. So Loom is really awesome. It's basically kind of like YouTube, but like way, way better, because it also has like a record feature built in and then a place to store those videos. And again, Loom is free. There's probably, and I think there is a paid version, but I, again, have not found necessarily a reason for the paid version. So I just have continued to use the free version. So, and to backtrack, WhatsApp is also free, obviously. And it's also very, very, very secure. So like much more secure than your Facebook messages or Instagram messages, if that matters to you. So those are the 7 online tools that I use. Like I said, they're all free, or they all have free versions. And I guess in total, I pay about $200 a year for some of these tools in total, right? And like that is so worth it when it's going to help me further deliver on my clients. But also just like that's really affordable for building a business. Like the bar to get into business is so low. And you'll notice that I didn't mention, that my website is my best tool, or the tool that I couldn't use without, what am I trying to say? That I couldn't live without, or that my course platform is a tool that I couldn't live without, or that my email marketing campaign manager software thing is a tool that I couldn't live without, because I could live without all of those tools. These are the tools, these 7 are the ones that really help me do my job, manage my business, and get results for my clients. And they are free. So to be fully transparent, obviously, I do have a website. Obviously, I do have an email marketing platform. Obviously, I do have an audio hosting platform for my podcast. I do have a bookkeeping platform. I do have, what am I missing? An email marketing platform. And I pay a lot of money for those. I also pay for, the help that I get from my podcast editors and my OBM and any other virtual assistants. And so those are all things that I start to pay for, out of convenience or because they're nice to have, but they're absolutely not necessary for you to get started and really to move the needle in your coaching business. And I didn't have most of those for years. And it was only really in the last year and a half that I was like, I'm going to start splurging a little bit and making my life a little bit easier. And that's when I also had the cash flow to do that. And so it just made natural sense. So if you're concerned, or if you're like, I'm spending so much money on all this stuff that I hardly ever use, or I'm not seeing the return on, recognize that and also know that you don't have to have all that stuff set up, especially if it's just like guzzling money from your savings pot. So in a lot of ways, a lot of the things that I use my other platforms that I do pay more money for, what I use them for, I could find alternative and free methods. And that's also something that I talk and teach in the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, how my clients can kind of get crafty. And that's also important because I think if you're going to build out a core curriculum for your program, and you think, okay, I have to spend $2,000 on Kajabi to be able to host that, it's not true. You can do it in a way that's a little bit more bare bones, but also a way that, you're not spending a bunch of money to validate your idea, to validate your program and its effectiveness. You actually can spend no money and validate that. And then once it's validated, once you see people like it, they want more of it, more people are willing to pay you for it, that's when you can go, okay, now I can see where that $2,000 is going to come from so that I can pay for Kajabi. Or, there's a lot of other course platforms out there. I'm just using the one that I use that are even more affordable, but that can kind of help put things into perspective for you and help you know kind of if you do want those nice to have things, those things can come, especially when it makes sense from a cash flow perspective. So I am a financial coach at heart and first and foremost, so I will always kind of share the 2 cents from a money spending perspective first. And then, of course, I'm a business coach, so I know sometimes you got to pay to make it happen, but I'm not always going to toot that horn because I don't think it's necessarily true all the time. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that you maybe learned something new or learned about a tool that you could use in a different way. If you have any questions or if you want to share some of your favorite tools that you use in your coaching business, please do that. You can send me a message at Tess_Wicks on Instagram. You can reach out to me on Facebook. Instagram is my favorite place, obviously, but you can also send me an email, tess@wanderwealthy.com. I love to hear from you. I love to have conversations with all of you, and I want to know what else you want to hear from me on this podcast. And don't forget that the Wealthy Coach Blueprint is going to open for enrollment in just a couple of months. And if you want to be the first to know when that's going to happen, you can get first dibs on the strategy session list. Then head to wanderwealthy.com/apply, scroll all the way to the bottom and go ahead and sign up for the waitlist. So you will be the first notified when everything is going to take place. All right, that's it, my friends. To get at the show notes of this episode, go to wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 189 and make sure you go out and you wander wealthy.